everyone, it's Justin again. Today, Mia and I are at the community garden. Wonder if there are any unplanted plots where we could plant some seeds of our own. Oh, there's a map of the garden that shows who's working on each plot. It says 5 out of 40 garden plots are available. But the map only shows 8 plots. How can that be? Good thinking, Mia. Maybe there's an equivalent fraction to 5/40ths that'll make more sense here. Remember, to find an equivalent fraction, we need to divide both the numerator and denominator by the same number. What number can both 5 and 40 be divided by? They're both divisible by 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1, and 40 divided by 5 is 8. So 5/40ths is equivalent to 1/8. 1/8, or one of the 8 plots in the garden, are available for us to plant on. That's so much simpler to understand. By the end of today's lesson, you'll be able to recognize if a fraction can be simplified, explain what it means for a fraction to be in simplest form, and use division to simplify fractions easily. Have your guided notes ready, and let's plant our knowledge in the perfect plot. One way to make fractions easier to understand is by representing them in their simplest form, like how we went from 5/40ths to 1/8. The simplest form of a fraction uses the smallest possible numbers to represent the same value. The fraction 1/8 is in simplest form because 1 and 8 are the smallest whole numbers that still represent the same value as 5/40ths. These fractions are equivalent, but simplifying 5/40ths to 1/8 makes it much easier to work with. Simplifying a fraction means reducing the fraction to its lowest terms without changing the value. For example, let's look at 3/9. Is it expressed in its simplest form? To decide, we need to think about whether there's a number that the numerator and denominator are both divisible by. If the answer is yes, then the fraction can be simplified to lower terms. So are 3 and 9 divisible by any of the same numbers? They're both divisible by 3. So what equivalent fraction does that give us? 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 9 divided by 3 is 3. So now we have 1/3, which is equivalent to 3/9. Can 1/3 be simplified? Well, are 1 and 3 divisible by any of the same numbers? Just 1, which means 1/3 is the simplest form of 3/9. 1/3 is also using lowest terms, where the numerator and denominator of a fraction have no common factors other than 1. Check out these two fractions. We have 2/7 and 2/8. One of these fractions is already in its simplest form, but which is it? Since 2 and 7 aren't divisible by any of the same numbers except 1, 2/7 is already in its simplest form. Pause here to use your division skills to find the simplest form of 2/8 in your guided notes. Two and 8 are both divisible by 2. So the simplest form is 1/4. Nice job, mathematicians. Here's our garden plot. Mia's going to work on loosening up the soil while we simplify more fractions, like the 30/48ths of our seeds that are vegetable seeds. Really? 30/48ths? Wow. Let's simplify this fraction. What are some possible numbers that both 30 and 48 are divisible by? They're both even numbers, so we could divide by 2. 30 divided by 2 is 15, and 48 divided by 2 is 24. 15/24ths. Wait, are 15 and 24 divisible by any of the same numbers? 3, right. 15 divided by 3 is 5, and 24 divided by 3 is 8. Now we have 5/8. Are 5 and 8 divisible by any of the same numbers? Nope, just 1, which means 5/8 is in its lowest terms, and it's the simplest form of 30/48. You know, Mia, there's gotta be a way to simplify larger numbers and fractions like that in just one step instead of dividing again and again. With 30/48, we divided by 2 and then divided by 3 to get 5/8. Could we have divided 30 and 48 by something different? Pause the video here to record your thinking. Both numbers are divisible by 6. 30 divided by 6 equals 5, and 48 divided by 6 equals 8. 5/8, that's the same as when we divided by 2 and then divided by 3. And 2 times 3 equals 6. I think we're onto something. Let's list out the factors of 30 and 48. Remember, factors are all the numbers that multiply together to make another whole number. So this can help us figure out which numbers 30 and 48 are divisible by. For 30, we have 1 times 30, 2 times 15, 3 times 10, and 5 times 6. And some of 48's factors are 1 times 48, 2 times 24, and 3 times 16. Pause the video here to record the other two factor pairs of 48. Two other ways to make 48 are 4 times 12 and 6 times 8. To make the factors easier to interpret, we'll arrange them in order from least to greatest. Do these two lists have any factors that are the same? Yes. What factors do they have in common? 1, 2, 3, and 6 are all the factors 30 and 48 have in common. 2, 3, and 6 are also the same numbers we divided by to find the simplest form. We know it took us 2 steps to get to 5/8 when we divided by 2, and then divided by 3, but only 1 step when we divided by 6. That means if we could find the greatest factor that two numbers have in common, we can simplify in just 1 step. Finding the greatest common factor, or the largest number that divides evenly into at least 2 numbers, is a great strategy to use when simplifying fractions. This is because it identifies the largest number that both the numerator and denominator can be divided by. Here's a couple more fractions for us to simplify. Each of our vegetable seeds needs to be planted 12/16 of an inch apart. And the sunflowers need to be planted 9/16 of a foot apart. Pause the video here to determine if these fractions are in simplest form. If they aren't, use the greatest common factor to simplify. Is one of the fractions already in simplest form? 9 has the factors 1, 3, and 9, while 16 has the factors 1, 2, 4, 8, and 16. Since they only have 1 in common, 9/16 is already in simplest form. Let's check out 12/16 though. The factors of 12 are 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. And 16's factors are 1, 2, 4, 8, and 16. What's the greatest common factor here? 4. So divide 12 by 4 and 16 by 4, and the simplest form is 3/4. So, what have we learned today, besides the fact that the garden shows us how beautiful simplicity can be? Well, now you know that fractions in their lowest terms can be easier to work with. Dividing the numerator and denominator by a number they're both divisible by can help you simplify a fraction step by step. A fraction is in simplest form when the numerator and denominator can only be divided by 1, and you also know that using the greatest common factor between the numerator and denominator can help you simplify in just 1 step. Be sure to complete the practice questions and extension activities that go with this lesson to practice simplifying fractions. And remember, mathematicians, in math, as in life, every effort adds to your success. I'll see you next time. Hey.